Hi there. My name is Talia Shakib-khou, and I'm a dietetic intern at the WorkWell Center. And today I will be presenting on the topic of building a balanced plate. In this presentation today, I will begin by discussing the food guide pyramid and how it led to an updated method that can be used to building a balanced plate. I will discuss each main food group that contributes to a balanced plate, and then I'll conclude with some tips and recipe ideas that may be helpful to you. So I first want to start out by showing you the US population dietary intakes compared to the recommendations. The bars in purple represent the percent of the population that is at or above the recommendation, and the bars in blue represent the percent of the population that is below the recommendation. And then the center line represents the goal or the limit. So first off, taking a look at total vegetables, 90% of the population is below the recommendation. And for fruits, about 80% is also below the recommendation. Now, the data for total grains is interesting here. Grains are divided into whole grains and refined grains, which I will be talking about later in this presentation. And about 40% of the population is below the recommendation for total grains. Now, for whole grains, almost 100% of the population is below the recommendation, while for refined grains, over 90% of the population is at or above the recommendation. Next up, for dairy, over 80% of the population is below the recommendation. And then lastly, for total protein foods, about 40% of the population is below the recommendation, and over 50% of the population is at or above the recommendation. So this is a really interesting figure, and it shows that our US population does struggle with meeting dietary recommendations. So in this presentation today, I'll focus on building a balanced plate with all of these food groups. So the food guide pyramid, as you can see here in the photo, it was created by the USDA in 1992. And as you can see on the pyramid, grains were placed at the base of the pyramid, followed by fruits and vegetables, dairy and proteins, and finally fats and sweets at the top of the pyramid. So in 2011, the food guide pyramid that we just saw was replaced by My Plate. So starting off, I really want to emphasize here that building a balanced plate does not need to be complicated. And My Plate is a simple guide to building a meal with the five main food groups and with an emphasis on fruits and vegetables making up half of your plate. It also represents an appropriate portion guide, but it is important to note here that specific amounts are dependent on individual needs. My Plate is also suitable for all ages and backgrounds as it can be easily customized. Now here are the five main food groups. There's fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. I will be discussing each food group shortly, but notice how there are various sources of food within each group, really highlighting that building a balanced plate is very customizable and it can easily be tailored to any dietary preferences and any restrictions. So, as we just saw, fruits and vegetables are two different food groups, but together they should make up half of your plate. So, starting off with fruits, I really want to highlight here that fresh fruit is not the only option. You can enjoy fresh fruit, canned fruit, dried or dehydrated fruit, or in the form of 100% fruit juice. I would like to note, however, that at least half of your fruit intake should be whole fruits instead of juice. Whole fruits are a great source of fiber, and juicing them results in that fiber being lost. And just like fruit, there are a variety of options when it comes to vegetables, whether it be fresh vegetables, frozen vegetables, canned, dried, raw, cooked, or 100% vegetable juice. Within the group, there are also five different subgroups, which are dark green vegetables, red and orange vegetables, beans, peas, and lentils, starchy vegetables, and other vegetables. It's really recommended to consume a variety of vegetables as each one offers different vitamins and different minerals. Now, similar to fruits, I want to point out here that whole vegetables are a great source of fiber, and juicing them results in that fiber being lost. So, really try to consume whole vegetables. I also want to point out here that purchasing fruits and vegetables does not need to be costly. Buying frozen is an easy and an affordable option, and it actually does not compromise the nutritional value since they are picked at the peak of their ripeness and then frozen, helping to maintain their nutrients. Canned items are also a great option, but it is important to read the nutrition labels on the packaging to look out for any added sugars and any sodium, which is oftentimes hidden in foods. So, as a reminder, 90% of the population is below the recommendation for vegetables, and about 80% is also below the recommendation for fruits. Now, there are a variety of reasons why fruits and vegetables are important to add to your plate. One being because they're full of so many essential vitamins and minerals, such as vitamin C, which plays a role in collagen synthesis, immune function, and iron absorption. Some examples of sources of vitamin C include bell pepper, orange, and broccoli. Fruits and veggies also contain vitamin A, which plays a role in vision. And some examples of sources of vitamin A include sweet potato, carrot, and mango. Fruits and veggies are also rich in minerals such as magnesium and potassium. Magnesium is important for muscle contraction, for nerve function, and for blood pressure. And some examples of sources of magnesium are spinach, banana, and mango. Another mineral that fruits and veggies are rich in is potassium, which is important for muscle contraction. And some examples of sources of potassium include banana, dried apricot, and cantaloupe. So these are just a few vitamins and minerals that fruits and veggies contain, but there really are so many more, really showing how nutritious they are and how important it is to add fruits and veggies to our plate. I also want to mention that fruits and veggies are full of fiber, which I will be discussing in just a bit. Moving on to the next food group, we got grains. So within the grain food group, there are whole grains and there are refined grains. And just to remind you, almost 100% of the population is below the recommendation for whole grains, while over 90% of the population is at or above the recommendation for refined grains. And to highlight the key differences between the two, whole grains contain the entire kernel, consisting of the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, making it a source of fiber. Whole grains also contain a variety of vitamins and minerals, such as the B vitamins, iron, magnesium, and selenium. And the B vitamins include vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, and vitamin B9. Some examples of whole grains include brown rice, oats, barley, quinoa, whole wheat tortillas, and whole wheat pasta. So when shopping for whole grains in store, look out for this whole grain stamp, which you can see in the upper right corner of the screen. And this validates that it is a whole grain product, and it also shows the amount of whole grain ingredients that are in a serving. So on the other hand, refined grains go through a milling process that removes the bran and removes the germ and leaves the endosperm. This process results in a finer grain texture and a greater shelf life. However, this process does remove the fiber and nutrients such as the B vitamins and iron. Refined grains are oftentimes enriched with the nutrients that were lost during the milling process, but it is important to remember that the fiber is still lost and it is not added back to the grain. Some examples of refined grains include white rice, white bread, and white flour. Because of these key differences, half of your grains should be whole grains. So this is the whole grain stamp, and as you can see here, there are three different stamps. The first stamp on the left shows 100% whole grain, and this stamp means that the entirety of the grain in the food is whole grain. And there must be at least 16 grams per serving for this stamp. The second stamp in the middle shows 50% or more whole grain. This stamp means that at least 50% of grain in the food is whole grain. And there must be at least 8 grams per serving for this stamp. Lastly, the stamp on the right is the basic stamp, which is used for foods that contain a good source of whole grains, but mainly consist of refined grains. And just like the 50% or more whole grain stamp, there must be at least 8 grams per serving for this basic stamp. So the next time you're grocery shopping, look out for these stamps so that you can spot whether or not the food is a whole grain product and how much they contain. Next up is the protein food group. So as you can see here, there are a variety of options from animal-based to plant-based sources of protein, really emphasizing that your plate can easily be made customizable and tailored to your preferences. Soy, peas, nuts, lentils, beans, and seeds are all protein-packed options, not only for those who follow a plant-based diet, but really for anyone. As you may remember, beans, peas, and lentils are also part of the vegetable food group. So these foods are part of two different groups. And when choosing seafood to add to your plate, look for sources that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, such as salmon. And then when choosing poultry and meats to add to your plate, look for lean sources to limit saturated fat. I do want to note here that it is important to try to consume a variety of protein sources, as each source of protein offers different nutrients. So there are many different reasons why you should add protein to your plate for a balanced meal. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and 9 of them are essential, which means that we must obtain them from our diets since our bodies cannot create them. There are various sources of these essential amino acids from plant-based and animal-based, including seafood options. So protein is essential for a variety of body functions, such as muscle growth and maintenance, tissue repair, hormone synthesis, and immune function. So before moving on to the final food group, I would like to discuss the role of fiber in building a balanced plate because it is present in so many nutritious foods. Fiber is a carbohydrate that cannot be digested, and there are two different types. There's soluble fiber and there's insoluble fiber, depending on their solubility in water. So fiber is important for many different reasons, including that it can help lower the risk of developing chronic diseases such as diabetes. It can help lower cholesterol. It supports bowel movement, and it helps keep you full for longer. And sources of soluble fiber include fruits, vegetables, oats, barley, beans, lentils, and nuts. And sources of insoluble fiber include whole grain and bran items. I would like to note that many foods do contain both soluble and insoluble fibers. So as you can tell, fiber is present in multiple food groups and offers many health benefits. The last food group is dairy. So some oftentimes only think of animal-based sources within the dairy group, but that actually is not the case. So the dairy food group does include animal-based dairy products consisting of milk, lactose-free milk, yogurt, and cheese, but it also does include plant-based products, including fortified soy milk and yogurt. Again, really showing that building your plate is customizable. So as I mentioned earlier, over 80% of the population is below the recommendation for dairy. And I want to mention here that high fat and low calcium sources of dairies are not included in the dairy food group. Examples of these foods would be cream cheese, butter, and sour cream. So, including foods from the dairy food group of milks, yogurts, and cheeses on your plate is important for nourishing your body with a variety of nutrients, including protein, calcium, which supports bone health, potassium, vitamin B12, and vitamin D, which supports calcium absorption. And as you can see here, there are two photos of nutrition labels, one for 2% reduced fat milk and one for soy milk. So the 2% reduced fat milk contains 20% daily value of protein, 15% daily value of vitamin D, and 30% daily value of calcium in a serving. In the photo next to it, the soy milk contains 14% daily value of protein, 15% daily value of vitamin D, and 15% daily value of calcium in a serving. And just for reference, a percent daily value of 5% is considered low in the nutrient, while a percent daily value of 20% is considered high in the nutrient. And for nutrients such as protein, vitamin D, calcium, we want to be looking for rich sources. So it's clear here that the dairy food group does provide great sources of these nutrients, and reading the nutrition label really shows that they are. Now, I would like to talk about some tips for easy and affordable meal building that may be helpful to you. So here are some tips that may be helpful in building your plate and also may help you save money and time when preparing. So first off, meal prepping or simply thinking about the meals that you'd like to make each week is an easy way to set yourself up for success. Having a plan in place will save you time and it will help hold you accountable. It will also help you create a shopping list to take with you to the grocery store to help you get in and get out quick and help you avoid any purchases that may be unnecessary. Another tip when grocery shopping is to check out the comparable generic brands if available, instead of reaching for brand name items. So, in many cases, the nutrition labels of brand name items and generic brand items are the same, with the only difference in the items being the price tag. So, I would suggest reading the nutrition labels and comparing the two. I also want to mention that since it is so important to prioritize fruits and veggies on your plate, I want to discuss some tips that can be more affordable. So, as I mentioned earlier, buying fruits and veggies frozen is a great affordable tip to building your plate. The nutritional value of frozen produce is not compromised, and they taste just as good in so many different meals. I personally love adding frozen fruits and veggies to my smoothies for the nutrition and the thick texture it gives it. And using frozen produce is also a great addition to soups and stews and so many other dishes. I also want to note here that buying in-season produce is a great tip because in-season produce is usually cheaper than out-of-season produce. So to wrap this up, I am sharing recipes for a balanced plate that you can enjoy either at home or on the go. So this recipe for prep ahead crunchy roasted cauliflower chickpea tacos was created by registered dietitian Lindsay Plescott. And it is a great balanced meal that includes all five of the food groups. It contains fruits and vegetables from the cauliflower and desired toppings of avocado, jalapeno, arugula, pickled cabbage, or red onion, and the other optional toppings. It contains grains from the corn tortilla. It contains protein from the chickpeas, and it has dairy from the yogurt, which can be Greek yogurt or a non-dairy alternative. So I love this recipe because it can be enjoyed at home or prepared and taken to work by, packaging the components separately at home and then assembling the tacos at work. I also love that there is a non-dairy alternative offered for the Greek yogurt used in the lime crema. So be sure to check out the link here for directions and more information on this recipe. This next recipe for a Mediterranean bowl with salmon was created by licensed and registered dietitian Stacy Hassing from the Real Food Dietitians. It contains all of the five food groups with a variety of fruits and vegetables, such as the romaine, cucumber, tomatoes, and onion. It also contains grains from the quinoa, contains protein from the salmon, which is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids. And it also contains dairy from the Greek yogurt. So this recipe can also easily be taken to work in a to-go container. And be sure to check out the link for directions and more information on this recipe as well. So to wrap everything up, I do want to mention that my plate is a great model for building a balanced plate, but there are a couple of points to consider. So as we saw earlier, the dairy food group includes sources of dairy and soy. And although including both animal-based and plant-based sources is great, it is a limitation for those who may have both a dairy and a soy allergy or intolerance. Another thing that I want to mention is that it is important to include the five food groups into your diet, but remember that your plate does not always need to look like my plate. So lastly, I'm leaving you with a link to the MyPlate website where you can learn more and access resources, along with the link to the USDA Seasonal Produce Guide, where you can learn more about what produce is in season. And I have also included links to the recipes that I shared in this presentation for the cauliflower chickpea tacos and the Mediterranean bowl with salmon. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have fun building your balanced plate. And here are my references for this presentation. Thank you.